Happy Homebrew Weekly. Cheers, guys. Today I'm drinking my barley wine again. Still very tasty. I might set it aside in a little bit in a couple of weeks because I'm getting some extract batches in the mail. I'll show you guys those. But I might set this aside and sit on it for maybe a couple months. I don't know. It's really tasty. So I think I have about 3/4 to half the batch left in the keg. Anyway, still very good. Cheers. I don't know if you can see my glass is a Stella Artois glass I got a couple years ago. They were doing a campaign for, the campaign was Buy a Woman a Drink, I think they called it. And basically you purchase a glass, I think it was $13 at the time, for one glass, and you specify the country that you want to support. And what you do when you buy the glass, you buy a woman and her family in that country a water supply for, I think it was, God, I can't remember, to tell you the truth. It was like a couple years. So this is Peru, and it's got a nice artwork on the glass. Anyway, it was a really nice campaign, really nice thing that they did. So I figured I would support the cause and get a nice glass out of it. So that's what that's from. Today I wanted to thank you guys, first of all, for a lot of the comments I've been getting, a lot of the feedback. It's been great having such an interaction with everybody so soon in this Homebrew Weekly series, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, really appreciate the feedback, and I have decided to start to kind of hone in on some subjects. I got some feedback saying, everyone's saying, you know, I'm kind of meandering, or there's really no point, more or less, to the videos. And you know what? I made these videos with the intention that, you know, it's whatever is going on in my world that pertains to homebrewing. And if there's nothing that week, then I got to find something to talk about. But I found some subjects and some things I want to touch upon. This week I wanted to talk about keeping good notes. A lot of people don't, or I don't find a lot of this on the web. There's a few pieces of software out there. ProMash. There's I use what do I use? I use Beersmith. And there's some spots for notes on your batches, and you can write in your gravity, your starting gravity, your final gravity. And what I find is those programs are great for calculations and figuring out your batch and figuring out ingredients. But, you know, computers don't last forever. Something that's tangible, like a notebook, you can keep around for a while, and you know, if your hard drive dies, or if your battery dies, or, you know, you're not going to lose that piece of paper. I mean, yeah, it might get wet on brew day or on bottle day or whatever, but keeping good, I usually keep notes, and then I also write my notes in Beersmith. Now, it might seem like an easy task right now. It's like, oh yeah, I'll just take some notes. But during your boil, when you're smoking a cigar, or you're cleaning, or you're relaxing with a beer, or chit-chatting with a friend, you know, the last thing you want to do is, you know, stop what you're doing and write for 5-10 minutes. But you'll thank yourself in the long run. If you're trying to hone in on your boil-off rate, or if you're trying to, you know, mimic a batch in the later, or mimic a batch that you made in the past, and you did some things that were different than you normally would, you know, write that down, because those little odds and ends are gonna they're gonna jog your memory when you read it, and you're gonna it's kind of nostalgic looking through the book and looking at all the past batches you've made, and, you know, little notes here and there, and like, oh yeah, I remember that batch. That's the batch that I had a boil over, or that's the batch I ran out of propane, or that's, you know, I've saved all of my extract batches that I've made, all of the one sheets that they come with, all the instructions and stuff, and I have those stored away in the back in a little envelope. And that's kind of cool to look back on. And you can also, if you're if you're going all grain, you can look back on those recipes and get some ideas for them, and you can figure out, okay, this beer was really good. I really like these flavors of the hops per se, you know, whatever. You go back to that recipe and you look at the hops that were used, and you look at the hop schedule, and you can play around with it. So definitely hang on to that stuff. Store it in a place that that you can hang on to it for a while. It's nice to have, and who knows, maybe I'll give those to my kids someday. Also, keep your receipts when you go to the homebrew shop or when you order offline. I usually keep mine in the back or towards the back of my my book. This way you can keep track of the prices. You can see if hop prices are going up or down. Chances are they're going up, along with yeast and grain. Anyway, I digress. You can keep track of your finances and, you know, budget accordingly, or it's just in good practice to keep good notes, save your receipts. You'll thank yourself in the long run. Another thing I wanted to talk about, and a lot of people talk about this, but it can't be overstated enough. There's a difference between cleaning and sanitizing. You can't sanitize what is not clean. So what I find a method that works for me is PBW, a combination of PBW and Star San. Plenty of people do this. There's a lot of people that do this. There's some people that say, you know, PBW is too expensive and all this. They use OxyClean. Actually, I bought some OxyClean recently. If any of you guys use OxyClean, let me know what your proportions are. I'm not even sure I bought the right one, to tell you the truth, but I'm not quite sure what the ratio of OxyClean to water I'm supposed to use. And so I noticed there was someone was saying online that OxyClean lacks something that PBW has. That's why they say not to use it. But I mean, as long as it's clean and rinsed, then you can sanitize. So there's some products out there like One Step that say you can clean and sanitize it in one step. You really shouldn't. I mean, not that I actually have never used it before, but I've heard some stories that honestly, it's not that hard to clean and then sanitize. It might be a pain in the butt, but I mean, if you're going to hedge your bet even more that you're going to make a good clean beer, you might as well put in the work. If you're putting in all the work to do everything else, to either keg it or bottle it, and you're going to pay the money for the grain and the hops and the yeast, and you know you're going to spend 3-4 hours on a batch, you might as well do it right. That's my motto anyway. So yeah, let me know what you guys use to clean. To sanitize, I know you can use iodophor. I've never used it. I know it stains all your equipment. I mean, that's just an aesthetic thing. Star San is super easy. Iodophor you have to rinse. Star San is a no rinse sanitizer. That's one of their big pulls, and it is so easy. Don't fear the foam. Don't fear the foam. If you dump out your Star San and you have a lot of foam in your fermenter or in your kettle or whatever you're sanitizing on your spoon, don't fear the foam. Don't be afraid to put your beer on top or to, you know, have your beer touch the foam. It's not a big deal. It's designed so that if you think about it this way, if you have a lot of foam on top of your beer in the carboy, as the beer level's rising, the foam is coming up, and eventually it's going to go through the neck of the carboy, and it's going to sanitize the entire top of the carboy. So there you go. So yes, clean and sanitize in 2 separate steps. Also, a good tip is to keep a bottle of Star San on hand. This is so that you can sanitize odds and ends of your equipment. So like if you're fermenting with a plastic bucket, and the lid is really hard sometimes to sanitize, so you can just spray it down very liberally. Just spray it, just keep spraying it. Or like a big brew spoon, sometimes that's a pain in the butt. Or maybe a racking cane, you can get it inside the nozzle inside the racking cane. So that's pretty convenient. You can also reuse Star San. You can use it over and over and over. I think the rule of thumb is 3 to 4 weeks. But just to be sure, you should use pH test strips. on your Star San, and if it has a pH of 3 or under, then it's still good. I find I keep my Star San usually around for 4 or 5 weeks, and it works fine. I have test strips that I keep testing it, make sure it's okay. But as soon as it gets above 3, it loses its ability to sanitize. So you got to dump it and make another batch. Also, don't make a full batch of Star San. You don't need to fill the entire fermenter to sanitize it. You just need to coat the inside. So start off with making a half batch. See if that works for you. I usually make a half batch, or if not, I'll make a gallon and just give it a good shake and keep reusing that. So that's a way to pinch some pennies on Star San, because Star San's not expensive, but it's just one more thing you got to buy. There's a lot of, when I first started homebrewing, everyone online keeps saying, oh, it's not that expensive to do this. It's not that expensive to buy a keg, and it's not expensive to start kegging, and it's not expensive to get a propane burner, and it's not expensive. But you know what? It does get expensive. It all adds up. So I find anything here and there is good to save some money within the means of making sure your beer is going to turn out all right. So paying that a little extra for some PBW. PBW, if you've never used it before, it's so easy. There's no scrubbing involved. You just set it and you let it sit for a day, a few days if you really want to. You can also reuse PBW. So in my recent batch that I made, I was cleaning out the fermenter, my carboy, and I had the PBW left over, and I thought, like, well, what can I use this for before I dump it? One of my kegs was almost done, so I emptied that into a couple growlers, and I cleaned out the keg as well. It works. PBW is a wonder. It's fantastic. It is also very good for taking labels off of bottles. If you guys have a hard time, if you scrape bottles, if you're still bottling, I still, somewhat enjoy bottling. I might have said this before, but I like keeping stuff around in the back. And if you keep a keg around for a while, then you're just using up, if you have a quarter of a batch left, that's, or a fifth of a batch left, you have 4 gallons empty in the keg that you're not using. It's just sitting there. Sometimes I find it a waste, but at the same time, like right now I have an empty keg. Like, what am I gonna, I hope to brew pretty soon once I get my packages in the mail. That's all I got for you today, folks. Thanks for watching. I hope this was a little bit more to the point. Like I said, I appreciate all the feedback, and happy brewing, my friends. Cheers. Man, that's good.